Hi, this is Rick Isaacs with the final installment of the series Enjoying Life with ALS. This one is part 3, and it has to do with some strategies for communication and clinical trials with regard to eligibility. The first thing we're going to discuss is a couple of items associated with communication. The most common form of communication device as we begin to lose both our speech and our ability to type is an eye-gaze computer, which is usually combined into a device called a speech generation device, or an SGD. There have been great strides in the technology over the last few years in terms of accuracy and the ability of these devices to be used with eye gaze for control and to be used to simulate your voice in terms of speech generation. However, they're not perfect, and they can require some getting used to. They're not necessarily intuitive in nature, and it takes a while to get used to it, especially those of you that may not have a lot of exposure to the computers and different types of software. It can be very confusing. It requires some time and some patience to be able to get used to how these things operate and how you can operate them. One of the reasons you need to get started early is because you don't want to wait until you can no longer communicate to start trying to use this device. You need to be able to communicate with others so that you can have that educational experience and back and forth to learn and ask questions about the device. Unfortunately, it's been my experience that I've known a couple of pals that have gone into the hospital, come out with a tracheostomy, I'm no longer able to speak and no longer able to type. And they were put before a speech generation device, and trying to learn it can be so frustrating. So if you can, get it early and get used to it is a major message for him. It's simply a matter of life enjoyment. You can use this device for sending emails. You can use it to speak your voice. You can surf the internet. You can go on Facebook. You can do all the things you can do with a normal computer. And that may be the focus of many people's lives, because you may not be able to get out like you used to. So a lot of your time might be spent by communicating and interacting with your friends on a speech generation device. It's also something that is proactive in nature. You do it before you need it, so it's there when you do. Obstacles, it takes time. I said before, and I can't emphasize it, it requires practice to be able to use your eyes to type, to be able to use your eyes to navigate through a website. It's not something that comes natural. It needs to be learned. So you need to try it before you buy it. And most people are simply unaware. They think that they're going to get this magic device that's going to solve all their problems, and they get nothing but frustration. I also have a little device. It's called a foot mouse, and it's a brand name. I'm sorry, I gotta use brand name. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's called a boomer. It was developed by a lady, I believe they're in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and she was a dental hygienist. And she was frustrated because she was trying to make notes in the computer as a dental hygienist. And like any medical professional, they're gloved, they're sterile, they're working in your mouth, they can't go be playing with the computer. So she put this together, and because she didn't have hands to be able to do computer input. And I said, wow, that's me. I can't use my hands. So I called her up, and she, I think it's a 2 or 3 man operation, 2 or 3 woman operation, and she set me up with one. The price is kind of high right now because it's limited production, but she does give discounts to people with disabilities. And if you look at that mouse, the center button on there is really a joystick for guiding the mouse around the screen, and the left button is left click and the right button is right click. So anything you can do with a mouse, if you don't have hands and you have feet that work, you can use your feet and operate a mouse like you are not affected by ALS. The second thing I wanted to talk about was voice banking. Now, there are really 2 major types. One is recording common phrases for playback, and that screen you see there is a way of storing common phrases that you are able to bank while you still have a voice. And you record those and you can use them later on if your voice gets weak or if you lose your voice completely. The thing I want to talk about mostly though is the second form, and that's called voice synthesization. There is a nonprofit company out there called Model Talker. They developed a system of synthesizing your voice, and it was primarily developed for children with difficulties speaking and enunciating words. So what you do is you apply to Model Talker, and it's simply modeltalker.org, one word, and they will ask for a sample voice recording. And once you get the quality up to their standards, they will put you on a program of reading and repeating 1,600 sentences. Now, that sounds like a lot, and it can take some time. I found it took me about 2 weeks, maybe a couple hours a day to get that done. But you have to repeat it until the quality is right, and it will tell you when it's good enough to go on to the next sentence. Once they have that, they will synthesize your voice, and they will send you back your voice in whatever format you want. It could be Mac, which mine was. It could be a PC. It could be an iPad or even a telephone. Basically, they can make that voice applicable to any device by any manufacturer. If you're interested in more detail about how to do that, I provided a link in this slide to a YouTube video that I did explaining the process a little more fully. And the next slide is going to be a representation of that voice I've taken a verse that I wrote as a message on Facebook, and the voice you hear is mine, but it's my voice that comes from a synthesized computer.
Did you know that people with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis are just like you? Other than this vessel we inhabit, we have the same hopes and dreams for the future. We love to laugh, and yes, we need to cry. We can be angry and frustrated just like you. We enjoyed beautiful things, a springtime flower, a song from our past, a good book, or a wonderful piece of art. Our understanding of love and friendship may be a bit more keen. Facing mortality does that to you. Most of us have left our filter at the door. We are not embarrassed to express our feelings and prefer not to leave unsaid those things we would like to say. Who knows, we may not get another chance. We may look and sound a little different than you underneath all that equipment. Wheelchair, ventilator, tracheotomy, communication device is a person just like you. Please understand we are not fragile and we will not break, so do not be afraid of us. We want to fit in just like you. So there you have it. I am the same guy I always was, just like you, a bit of a dreamer with an odd sense of humor, except maybe now I wear my heart on my sleeve a little more than before, and what little filter I had is now gone forever. Just saying.
The benefits here is it can greatly enhance your life enjoyment, and it can be a little choppy, but it's me, and my family will hear me when I'm talking, not Stephen Hawking or Dolly Parton or whatever voices they have out there. It does take some time, but the most important thing about this is to do it early. Right now my voice has changed quite a bit. I did it well over a year and a half ago, and I wish I had done it even earlier. It's very difficult to get quality recording when your voice starts to change. And my message there is, even though you think you may never need it, do it anyway. Even if you don't need it, at least you have it. But if you do end up needing it, it's so much better to have it there and banked than to wish you had done it because you didn't take the time. Clinical trials. Some of you know that I'm an ALS ambassador for research, and through the Northeast ALS Consortium, and we do a lot of education on that subject to try to encourage clinical trial participation. And we're going to focus on something that I think is critical here, but let's first talk about the benefits. Obviously, you're not going to find a cure unless you have people participating in trials. And those of us who do participate feel better for it. Even if the trial fails, many of us will still feel better. It gives you a sense of purpose in life. It also has a benefit of making you feel like you did something for the cause. And it gives you that feeling of altruism. Big word, huh? So, my big message here is that enrollment in these studies is way less than 10% of people with ALS. And you think, well, why is that? Well, I think a big reason that isn't widely known is people like me saying, you know, I just got diagnosed with ALS. My life has now got an expiration date on it. I have a lot to do while I'm still healthy. I want to go out and do those things while I'm still healthy, and I want to do those now. And you know what? I can get involved in clinical trials later. There's plenty of time for that. Let me go off and travel and do all these wonderful things. And then when I really get sick, I'll get myself into a trial. Right? Wrong. That's absolutely wrong. Unfortunately, the clock starts ticking for your eligibility long before you ever were diagnosed. The clock starts ticking the first day of your symptoms. So that is sometimes a year, sometimes a year and a half before you're diagnosed with ALS. And most trials have an exclusion criterion, especially the phase 2 trial, that exclude patients that have been experiencing symptoms for more than 2 years. So that's a very critical factor to understand. Being an engineer, I had to put this in graphical format so that you can understand. So that first blue diamond over there, that's when I was diagnosed. About a year, that was when I first experienced symptoms. And that's about a year before I was diagnosed. By the way, that's when the clock started ticking, okay? So then I was diagnosed. I continued to work for a year. I did about a half a year at home, in the office, and then I went off to working from home. And I started to travel to do things. And so by the end of the second year, I lifted my head up and I said, Mom, what about clinical trials? But I found out that the window for clinical trials had already closed for me, for many of them. And most trials is a 2-year window. Some trials have a 3-year eligibility window, and that gives you another year to work with. But why did they do that? I talked about our functional rating scale and the progression of over time. Well, your greatest progression is usually in the first year or two. And that is a good time to measure progression. And what they're looking for is people early on in the disease with very measurable progression rate that is fairly predictable. That way they can tell better if they've slowed it down or not. The other one is, quite frankly, longevity. If we have a 3 to 5 year from diagnosis as a longevity, quite frankly, they want us to live through the trial so they can continue to get data. So it's very important to think about this very early. Benefits, I think we talked a lot about. Don't fear clinical trials. Make yourself educated. It can really be something that can help you. Maybe it can help others with ALS, and we need to get ourselves a cure or at least a treatment. So what do you need to do? This is hard, and this is something that I think our healthcare professionals need to help us with. But basically, very soon after you were diagnosed, you need to start thinking about it. You need to be aware that there is a 2-year window from your first symptoms until you are no longer eligible to participate in a trial. So you need to think about it early. Talk it over with your doctor. Talk it over with your family. Do you want to get involved? But as hard as it may be, and I know those first few months are so difficult when you're first diagnosed, and maybe you're not participating in them, but maybe you're getting yourself ready that maybe in 3 to 6 months you can start thinking about what trial you might want to participate in. The last part of my series here is a little bit talking to our healthcare professionals and our care service professionals within the ALS Association. And I have to say that the goal here, and I think you all would understand, is educate us to the maximum extent possible. Knowledge is power. And if we understand the interventions that you are proposing we take on, and we understand the benefits, and we understand the impact of not using those benefits, we will better be prepared to be participative in our own care. So help us be proactive. Teach us. That's what we need to know. I think there's another thing I say is be on the lookout for those things we may not be telling them. Now, we may be hiding things from you, we can be sneaky, but we may simply not know that something we're doing or experiencing is a result of ALS. So a good healthcare professional will always be on the lookout for those things we're not telling them. And I think that we also need to be brutally honest, maybe not at first, but if somebody is refusing treatment, and that's our prerogative, we need healthcare professionals to be brutally honest what the impact of that decision may be, because it might be much worse than what the person thought it would be. And my philosophy in life is bad news doesn't get better with age. Lastly, I think that virtually every clinic can benefit from having a seasoned person with ALS attend clinic, not for purposes of their own clinic visit, but just to be there, be that voice, be that person who can listen, can mentor. People need to know they're not alone. It's important to know that things aren't going to happen tomorrow or today. You don't have to make snap decisions about anything. You can take your time. You can learn what is going on with how you can employ these various interventions. I also like to tell them that there's so much more life to live, even with ALS, and there's so much to enjoy. And it feels bad when you're diagnosed, but it gets better, and some things can be very enjoyable. So my final message really is, get yourself a seasoned pal, a person with ALS, into your clinic to be that shoulder to lean on, and maybe simply be that person who listens when they want to talk about their innermost feelings, and just have somebody who has been there and understands to talk with. Thank you.
Choirs that sing, guide us through this odyssey. We implore thee. All is well, trust in me. The storm will change to calming sea. In the morning's light, there will be beauty. Seek and ye shall find the elegance of his design.